We are live. You know, one of the joys of doing live stream is I have no idea what I'm going to say before we go on the air. That's so much more refreshing than the ordinary way that we go about doing this. Give me a second while I get everything properly set up here. Being a one-man operation and all, it's good times. Let's see, get myself into chat here so I can interact with all of you. All right. Hi, I see author in the chat. So welcome, my friends. We've got some interesting breaking news. Well, earlier this afternoon anyway, a couple of hours ago. And it looks like, once again, the courts are going to rule in Trump's favor. The higher courts, which, of course, we're talking about the National Guard being sent to Chicago. There was an attempt to stop Trump from doing it, because this is par for the course when it comes to corrupt judges at every step trying to stop Donald Trump or Orange Man Bad. In fact, how do I put this? We have this never-ending back and forth going on between the will of the American people, our presidency, the rule of law, and these corrupt political activists who disguise themselves as judges. They are ruling. The court that tried to block, it was Ilston, I believe, who tried to block Donald Trump from bringing in the National Guard. He clearly has the authority as the commander-in-chief to do so. But the attempt is to intentionally thwart the rule of law. Because there's this imperative, there's this need to stop Orange Man Bad, to stop the Mad Painter, the new Mad Painter who likes cheeseburgers, who likes McDonald's. And it's just this never-ending back and forth. The corrupt lower-tier federal judges, they decide, okay, we're going to go ahead and just thwart the will of the American people. Then you have the Supreme Court or later judges who will then step in and say, no, we're not going to do that either. Let's undo what the courts are doing here at the lower courts. And it just keeps repeating itself, and it's exhausting. Court corruption right now has been at a fevered pitch in a way that I've never experienced. I mean, we've known for a long time that the courts are corrupt. But it seems to be at this level that we've never seen before. And it's gotten to the point where it's so common that you've got political commentators out there in the major news networks, even on those from, say, the right, who just kind of treat it if it's just par for the course, as if what is happening right now with these judicial activists, these people pretending to be judges wearing judge robes, as if what they're doing is normal, as if it's anything other than what should be seen as criminal. Because make no mistake, my friends, these political activists are actively working against the law. They're working against the commander-in-chief. They're working against the United States itself. They're working against you and me, and they're working against the Constitution. How else can you interpret these crazy rulings by these judges? Again and again and again, they do this. And so, here we are once again. You've got this judge blocking Donald Trump from bringing in the National Guard to Chicago. It's as predictable as the sun setting in the west, or maybe even rising in the east. But once again, the ruling by this lunatic judge has already been overturned by the Ninth Circuit in a 2-1 decision, which brings us then to this Fox News article to discuss it. This is by Brianne DePishk, I guess. And it reads, Ninth Circuit Court rules on Trump's National Guard deployment in Portland. A 3-judge panel comprised of 2 Trump appointees and 1 Clinton appointee heard the case last week. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on Monday ruled that President Donald Trump can deploy Oregon National Guard troops into the city of Portland, delivering a significant victory to the Trump administration as it continues its efforts to send federal forces into Democratic-led cities despite a string of recent setbacks in other district and appeals courts. And of course, this was always going to happen. At some point, it was going to reach this ruling. There's no way that Trump doesn't have the authority to do it, especially when you have active attacks on federal agents. And when you have local corrupt police units, police force, corrupt mayors, governors, doing everything they can to thwart the rule of law. I mean, this takes me back to the 1960s, where you had to have the federal government come in and force the ending of segregation. When you have rogue states like here in Illinois with Mr. Needs a Salad Pritzker, at some point you have to have the federal government step in and say, okay, time to be the adults in the room. Let's stop this crap. Because if you don't, anarchy is around the corner. Arthur says the SCOTUS Supreme Court needs to make a ruling that applies to all these injunctions. I'm tired of the 2-tiered system that allows the riots and destruction no tolerance. Yeah, well, and they've already told the courts that they can't do, for example, national injunctions. But as we covered just the other day, they're still doing it. They're still going in there and doing national injunctions. This time with the firing of federal employees during the lockdowns. It doesn't seem to end. And these judges are willfully going against the Supreme Court. They're essentially creating law. They're trying to be little Führers, little leaders. At one point, does that become criminal and or treason? It should be, in my book. You can't have this lawless behavior by federal freaking judges. None of this makes any sense at all. Now, Fox goes on to write that judges on the 3-member panel ruled 2-1 to authorize once more Trump's deployment. Judge Ryan Nelson and Judge Bridget Bade, both appointed by Trump, sided with the administration and the majority ruling, with the lone Clinton-appointed judge, Susan Graber, dissented. After considering the record at this preliminary stage, we conclude that it is likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority under 10 U.S.C. 124063, which authorizes the federalization of the National Guard when the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. Can we just say, duh? Yeah, of course. The fact that we have to have a higher court to reiterate what is obvious to everyone with a working brain seems like madness to me. How in the hell have we reached a point where this is just normal? Judicial activism is reaching a critical point here. You can't run a country with hundreds of little presidents all over the place trying to decide what the rule of law is going to be and who gets to be in charge. And all these judges trying to become little Führers. And yet, getting rid of judges is so damn difficult that they just get to sit there and keep rinse and repeat. And they know it. Which is part of the problem. There's no accountability for corrupt judges. Now, look, I understand that you want to have some kind of space in between because you don't want judges to become political, a prisoner to political whims. You want them to rule on the law. In theory, the judges would just put on their big pointy hats and say, why, yes, who cares about our own political ideology? We're just going to sit here and rule on the rule of law. But that hasn't been the case for at least in my lifetime. Maybe never, but certainly not in my lifetime. Judicial activism has been a problem for decades. What's happened now is because of Trump derangement syndrome, because these lunatics have lost their mind with Orange Man bad, it's out in the open. You can't hide what's happening here. It's slapping you in the face left and right, saying, hello, hello, court corruption. Now, the move has become a political flashpoint, writes Fox, as protesters opposing his key policies have clashed with law enforcement. Oregon officials and civil liberties groups say the administration is exaggerating the threat. It doesn't matter. When you have people blocking federal agents at any other time in American history, they would have already been jailed. They would be getting prosecuted right now, not tolerated. But for some reason, ever since the hands up, don't shoot hoax, the anti-police movement, the BLM hate groups, the Antifa hate groups, people seem to have lost their goddamn minds with this sort of stuff. It's just so frustrating to watch. It's like, oh, we can't do anything about this. BS. And Trump's allies, of course, are insisting the guard is needed to restore order because guess what? They are. In Portland, it's been going on, 3 months now? Endless protest, endless blocking, endless of exits of the ICE facilities there, endless attempts to spark conflict. At some point, if these police departments aren't going to do their damn job, you got to bring in the federal government. Hi, Diane. Welcome to the chat. Now, another federal judge in Oregon temporarily blocked Trump's attempt to deploy troops to Portland earlier this month. This just keeps happening. The Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals agreed to hear the Trump administration's appeal, meaning it too will likely get overturned. The lower court judge had described Trump's action in her emergency order as untethered to reality, and one that she said risks blurring the lines between civil and military federal power to the detriment of this nation. You just have these judges, these rogue a-hole judges, thinking that they get to be president, that they get to dictate what the law is no matter what is in the Constitution. Because make no mistake, that is what is happening here. It's just unacceptable. Now, the appeals court stayed the lower court's order pending review, as it should, because the whole thing is madness. And the ruling comes as Trump has sought to deploy hundreds of National Guard troops to Democratic-led cities despite stated opposition from local and state leaders. Senior administration officials have argued that the deployment is a necessary step to crack down on what they say is an uptick in violent crime and protect against threats from protesters, including anti-ICE demonstrations in many downtown areas. And again, this seems like a no shit kind of a moment. How many months do we have to tolerate these lunatic behaviors of these 2%ers? These people who have no business being tethered to normal people. There are a lot of criminal types that go out there and are looking to cause mayhem and violence, and we don't do anything about it. And the local police departments, the state doesn't do anything about it. You have to have the federal government go in there. Now, Democrats are countering that Trump's descriptions are hyperbolic and inaccurate. Don't believe your lying eyes, my friends. Don't believe all the lunacy. It's all in your minds. And they're arguing that for Trump it is a legal pretext to try and federalize Democratic-led cities. Well, maybe if you enforced the rule of law, maybe if you got the hell out the way of the Trump administration from enforcing the law, you wouldn't have this problem. And of course, leftists from these Democrats have used news conferences to highlight declines in violent crime, which I have an article I might get to where it looks like they've been busted altering statistics to make it seem like violent crime is decreasing, which of course should come as no surprise when you can see the violence with your own eyes constantly in 4K. And they are arguing that they argued in the court that the effort to deploy federal troops exceeds Trump's authority as commander-in-chief, which of course it doesn't. It's not even a close. It's not even something that you can really argue here. Let's mute this phone here. Now, until the matter is appealed to the Supreme Court, the burden remains on the lower courts to navigate the high-profile, politically thorny flurry of cases. Another federal appeals court has also weighed in on this dispute. On Saturday, the 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago partially lifted a lower court order blocking Trump's federal deployment of National Guard troops. I mean, this just keeps happening. There has to be a solution to deal with these rogue judges. Something needs to change. And again, it's a tough. It's risky on how you navigate this, but there needs to be a way to get rid of these judges faster. Now, the 7th Circuit or Circus Court of Appeals stopped short of authorizing the use of the National Guard and instead allowed them to remain at a U.S. Army Reserve base outside the city, which is also ridiculous and should not have been tolerated. Now, in Oregon, the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals held about 90 minutes of arguments on the administration's appeal. Trump administration officials argued the troops' presence was necessary to quell mounting unrest and protect against future risks of violence. Judges on the 3-member panel appeared largely sympathetic to the Trump administration, especially the 2 Trump appointees, who noted presidents do enjoy broad latitude to deploy the National Guard because, of course, they do. The number one job of a president is to protect the people and to uphold the rule of law. He's the chief executive officer. He's the ultimate lawman. And when you have rogue states willing to do everything in their power to thwart the rule of law, that's when the president gets to step in and say, go screw yourself. We're going to do something about it. A. Lord says, Insurrection Act, void the insignificant lower courts. I've talked about this in previous streams. I do think we're getting to this point. Watching how Trump has navigated this, because they expected Trump to immediately say, screw you guys, I'm just going to run this the way I want to. I'm going to ignore the courts. I think that was the Democrat Party's belief system when they started all of this when Trump got into office back in January. But Trump and the administration seem to be completely and fully prepared to deal with the Democrat Party in round 2. And so what I think is happening here is the Trump administration is continuing to go through the courts so as to make it perfectly clear and perfectly obvious how retarded and how insidious the left has become. And I think they're waiting for the will of the American people to be so behind him, 10 toes down, so outraged and furious at the obvious insurrection that's taking place within the judicial branch that eventually the American public is going to demand that Trump do something about it. And I think that's when you're going to see the Insurrection Act be used. Now, I don't know anybody in the Trump administration, so I'm just speaking out of my ass. I'm just some guy on the internet. But that's what I think is going to happen here. I could be wrong. Again, I'm just some guy sitting down in front of a camera and talking to you guys. But I think that's what's happening here. And I think we will get there. Similar to mass deportation. I think it's just a matter of time. Donald Trump wants to be number one. And when you have Dwight D. Eisenhower, who's got the lead with mass deportations in the 1950s. I can't say the name of it here because YouTube would not like the name that they called the operation. But you can look it up. Yeah, so I think that's what the Trump administration is doing here. Now, Judge Ryan Nelson, the Trump appointee, said during oral arguments that it may well be that forces are used in an improper way, but we don't have evidence of that. Trump's decision to call up the military doesn't strike me as a glaring overuse on its face. Because, again, it's not. Now, the panel's majority, otherwise, did little to disguise their skepticism of arguments presented by Oregon Assistant Attorney General Stacey Chaffin, or who the hell cares, including that Trump's assessment of violence in the city did not justify federalizing the National Guard. The bottom line is, if you have an attempt to thwart the Trump administration from upholding the rule of law, they have the right to do something about it. Arthur writes, the Insurrection Act needed to be enacted when these PDs started sending orders to stand down. Yeah, for sure. That was probably a good time to do it. I would have agreed with that. Now, rebellions are unusual and extreme emergencies, Chafin said. She noted that the bulk of complaints by local agents are focused on them being short-staffed, administrative or personnel concerns, and she said are not a reason to bring the military into the streets of Portland or any other U.S. city. Again, BS. Still, the court appeared poised to side with the Trump administration. I'm not even sure even President Lincoln would have been able to authorize the use of force right now if his actions were to be scrutinized under that much more stringent reviewability standard implied by Oregon here, the Judge Nelson noted, shortly before the court adjourned. The Ninth Circuit is one of several appeals courts that has weighed Trump's plan to send National Guard troops to Democratic-led cities in recent weeks. On Friday, the Trump administration asked the Supreme Court to intervene and block a Seventh Circuit ruling that blocked it, for now, from sending national troops into the city of Chicago. Now, this battle is not over, mind you. It's still going to go to the Supreme Court. But, I mean, I would be shocked if it didn't go in Trump's favor here. You've got a pretty sizable majority from the right, and that majority tends to rule what they believe is according to the rule of law. So, if that's the case, then I would expect the Supreme Court to back up the Trump administration. You never know. You can't celebrate until the fat lady has sung, but it seems likely. So I would expect the Supreme Court, when it does get there, to again back up the Trump administration. But the question is, how many times is this going to happen? Spoiler alert, every time. No matter how many times the Supreme Court rules, I think, that Trump can, the next state will be another fight. And it'll just go on and on and on until something is done with these judges. Because you have these violent, lunatic, deranged leftists who have been ratcheting up the hate and attacks on anyone who disagrees with them for so long that we've reached a point in time in our society where it just feels like normality. Like, oh, hey, another violent leftist did another violent thing. How normal. How quaint. Which is enraging that we've even reached this point to begin with. How do we get to the point where these people have lost their damn mind so much so that our society has just sort of accepted the endless hate, the endless violence from these brown shirt wannabes? Why is it that the left, who pretends to hate the mad painter so much, and by inference, the orange man bad, aka Donald Trump, why do these people end up goose-stepping down to the beat of their own Nazi drum? They want to emulate the brown shirts of the National Socialist Workers' Party, and they gaslight themselves into thinking that they are the good guys. And they do this by saying that words are violence. And so by having opinions that disagree with theirs, you are hurting them, you are attacking them, you are killing them, which then in their minds allows them to do what they do. But I guess in the end, it doesn't really matter why. The why doesn't really matter. The fact remains that these guys have lost their damn minds. The lunatics on the left, the Antifa types, the Karenocracy, the TDS crazies. And many of them have embraced evil to achieve their ends. The Charlie Kirk incidences, the people celebrating the Charlie Kirk deaths. These people don't need to be reasoned with. They don't need to be understood. They just need to be stopped. Now, maybe there's going to come a day somewhere down the road where we can return to a society where we get to live, where we get to disagree with each other. Remember the good old days when it used to just be which type of government was the way to go? Big government versus small government, more freedom versus safety nets. That was a long, long time ago. It's a dream of better days for sure. Danny writes, I've heard a lot of people thankful the National Guard came to Memphis. The citizens are screaming for the Guard in Chicago. We want the Guard in these cities. Right. I think a lot of people do, especially when you're living in a crime-ridden, filth-stained city like Chicago, like New York, like Washington, D.C., Portland, and others, Los Angeles. You want your neighborhood to be safe again. You want to be able to walk out your freaking front door. But violence is everywhere in these cities. It just seems so crazy that we reached a point to where violence and crime and filth is normalized. And the party that's for all of these things proudly is for all of these things. Make it easy to steal in California. It took the voters to demand change to roll back the law that decriminalized theft for anything under $1,000, turning it into a misdemeanor. Cashless bails, the most retarded idea of our century. It's like they never stop to look at what they're doing and realize how stupid they are. It's just, oh, well, it didn't work. Got it. Maybe it just wasn't run by the right people. It's like listening to people argue about communism. And the only reason why it didn't work was, well, we didn't have the right, perfect people. Madness. All of it, madness. Now, I think, see if I have this here. I had a couple of other articles that we can dive into. And let's see if I have... I had one, speaking of Trump derangement syndrome. I have a couple of them. There was, speaking of Chicago, you had the Karenocracy at it again. This woman who desperately needs to find a salad was out there yesterday during the No Kings March doing what violent Karens do best.
Hey! You ever heard of Ozempic, you fat ass?
Did he say ever heard of Ozempic? So you've got this Karen out there mocking Charlie Kirk getting shot in the neck. Shock and surprise, she's a teacher at an elementary school. And she's also allergic to vegetables. This is from the Post-Millennial, conservative news outlet. Chicago elementary school teacher mocks Charlie Kirk's assassination during the No Kings protest. The woman is named Lucy Martinez and is employed by Chicago Public Schools. This is written by Roberto Wackerel Cruz. A Chicago public school teacher has been accused of appearing to mock the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The video, which circulated widely on social media, shows a woman making the gesture of firing a gun at her own neck, seemingly referencing Kirk's death. Others cheered in the background because, of course, the radical weirdos with TDS literally bleeding out their eyeballs can't get enough of their bloodlust. Nathan Hale Elementary in the Chicagoland area, which serves mostly Hispanic students, has removed the profile of the teacher. And the school also shut down its website, saying that it is under construction. I'll bet it's under construction. The Post-Millennial reached out to Martinez as well as the public school, but did not receive a response at the time of publication. Yeah, no shit. They're not going to respond to that. There's no way in hell, if you're the school, that you want to publicly acknowledge this. But if she's still there and not fired, then they haven't done their job yet. Now, according to the account that 84 Bull knows, who first posted the video, the woman is named Lucy Martinez and is employed by the Chicago Public School. The lady from the video, they said, is Lucy Martinez. She's a teacher in a Chicago school. And the district has not yet commented to the claim. This is Colin Rugg on X, posted this and saying the woman in the viral video mocking Charlie Kirk's assassination is a Chicago public school teacher, yada, yada, yada. And said this woman teaches children Lucy is now the perfect face of the No Kings movement, a movement that preaches love but celebrates death. Evil always exposes itself. And it's funny how it really does. It's weird to see that these people are so insane that they can't understand how they look to regular people. But you have to understand why. They live in these little bubbles. They only talk to each other, and they cancel anyone who deviates at all from the monolithic ideology. Don't believe in trans? You're banned. Don't believe in pedo-trans? You're banned. Don't believe the orange man bad is Adolf Hitler reborn? You're banned. And so they only have people in their groups that agree with them. So I think some of these people are genuinely surprised and shocked when it comes for them, when they find out that they aren't the majority opinion or that there is a price to pay for abject hatred. Anthony says she will not lose her job. In fact, they will celebrate her in the teacher's lounge. Oh, no doubt. Within the school, they will definitely celebrate her. Now, depending on what kind of public pressure could be put into play, maybe she might get terminated. But you're right. I certainly wouldn't bet on it, especially not in Chicago. It's like the LA schools. 10, 15 years ago, there was a rash of SA incidences. There was the infamous teacher with the adult mayonnaise on cookies, giving it to children. And instead of being fired, he was put on administrative leave. So Chicago could be that bad as well, for all I know. It certainly wouldn't surprise me. Now, the video that we watched is part of the wave of footage from recent anti-Trump and No Kings demonstrations following Kirk's killing. In some cases, protesters have been seen wearing the same outfit as Tyler Robinson. Are you freaking kidding me? Tyler Robinson is the guy that killed Charlie Kirk. You got people dressing up like him. Yep. And this old piece of shit right here, he knows better. He's not a Zoomer, a millennial, who, is mentally dead, brain dead. This guy should know better. How do you get to be that old and that insane? Now, last month in Phoenix, a 19-year-old man was arrested after reportedly destroying a memorial dedicated to Kirk outside Turning Point USA HQ. Police identified the suspect as Ryder Corral, and witnesses said Corral walked through the memorial area, kicking over flowers, balloons, vases, and American flags before being restrained by bystanders. Phoenix police later confirmed Corral's arrest, saying he faces multiple charges, including criminal damage and disorderly conduct. Corral will be booked on multiple charges to include criminal damage and disorderly conduct. Witnesses said Corral wore a black t-shirt resembling, again, the one from the assassination dude Robinson during the Utah shooting, though police have not confirmed any link between the two men. The memorial in Phoenix was erected shortly after Kirk's assassination. There's no disguising it at this point. They're out there. They're proud of what they are. And you have to wonder, what kind of moral compass, if any, do these people actually have? Because it feels like they don't have one. It feels like that they are just a bunch of lunatic weirdos who are willing to do anything and everything if it means that they can destroy Orange Man Bad and bring in some weird leftist radical lunatic utopia. Now, Diane says staying quiet about his behavior is going to get worse. No doubt. Yeah, and that's where I think the more people, the better, that speak out about this right now, the better, because these people as a whole need to learn that they can't just do this. And we saw the wave and the rash of firings following the Charlie Kirk celebrations because it was so in people's faces. There was no hiding it. We need more of that. Absolutely need more of that. You know, it's always kind of exciting being a one-man show. There we go. Had to upload the a thumbnail while we're talking. So yeah, so there's TDS 1. Then we have TDS 2, because if you thought that was enough TDS for one day, it was not. This is from the New York Post. Diminutive, well, somebody does not like short people. Accountant stands on tiptoes to tear down Trump sign and then shoots up the owner's house. What? So he's got a short... Man, this writer does not like short people. Damn. He's got a short fuse. A diminutive accountant is accused of becoming enraged at the sight of a Trump sign, ripping it down, and shooting up the owner's house in a caught-on-camera rampage. Benjamin Michael Campbell, who is 5'6", had to stand on his tippy toes to rip down a Trump 2024 banner before he fired multiple rounds from a handgun at the homeowner's house from the sunroof of his car, missing the homeowner by just a couple of feet. So the guy tried to commit murder over a Trump sign. This is the a-hole in question. This is our Campbell right here. Now, the accountant, and he was an accountant, that's lovely, is accused of becoming enraged at the sight of a Trump sign, ripping it down, and then shooting up the owner's house in a caught-on-camera rampage. What an idiot. Campbell, who is 5'6", had to stand on his tippy toes to rip down the flag before he fired multiple rounds, etc. Campbell, he's married to boot. Why? Again, they think that they are saving the world or some crazy shit. I don't know. But they have gaslit themselves into thinking that people with different opinions from theirs deserve to be eliminated. That's what this is about. Campbell, a married Atlanta native, was speeding down a highway in Nantahala Gorge, North Carolina, about 75 miles west of Asheville on September 6th, when he suddenly came to a grinding halt when he spotted the flag hanging in Mark Thomas's front yard. So he slams on the brake and goes, "What in the hell? There's a Donald Trump sign." Imagine you're minding your own business, you're driving down the road, you see a sign from something you don't like. You get so mad, you slam on your brakes, and you run out there and try to tear it down. And yet we have seen so many examples of this over the last 6 months. Now, Thomas, the homeowner, the guy that was shot at, says he was driving along, saw the sign, slammed on his brakes, had a political trigger moment, and he just had to tear the sign down. Here's a picture of the idiot trying to get the flag. He started reaching up on his tippy toes, trying to get to the edge of the sign. I just thought to myself, this is not happening. I don't believe this. Thomas, an avowed Trump supporter who owns the Paddle Inn Rafting Company, said he grabbed his rifle to confront the stranger in his yard, and he walked out of his front porch where Campbell could clearly see him. He then fired 2 warning shots in the air to scare the trespasser. But Campbell, who had ripped off the sign by this time, then threw it on the ground like he was proud of what he had just done. Right? He probably thought, I'm a hero. Look at me. I stopped Orange Man bad. I tore down a sign, a flag. Imagine being so insane. Campbell, who had ripped up, but instead of heeding Thomas's warning shots, the 38-year-old whipped his car back along the road because he was still frothing at the mouth, going, I'll show him. And he produces a handgun and fires multiple times from the sunroof, as you can see here in this picture. And Thomas estimates that he popped off about 6 rounds. And he said, I found one bullet hole in my refrigerator, which is on my porch, noting that the fridge was just yards away from him. So he almost killed Thomas over a Trump flag. This guy needs to spend decades behind bars. Frankly, he should spend the rest of his life behind bars because somebody like this is a danger to society. But of course, our laws are way too weak for that right now. We allow lunatic radicals to just fester within our society and nobody can do anything about it. Police responded to the scene, the New York Post goes on to write, but by the time that they arrived, Campbell had driven off. Days later, investigators became aware of the video of the confrontation that Thomas shared on YouTube. These investigators are pretty shit at their jobs. They could have gone to Thomas in the first place and said, hey, do you have cameras? And he could have said, yup. They had to wait for it to get posted on YouTube. This tells me they didn't want to do anything about it. But they waited until it went viral, and then, well, we just discovered this. Golly gosh, gee, let's do something about it. Somebody needs to look into Swain County Sheriff. Man. Cops then arrested Campbell on September 30th. And they released a photograph of him standing beside a height chart this week, revealing his short stature. What is this? This writer has a real in for guys at 5'6". Jeez. Is it Karen writing this? Let's see. Hold on. Who is this again? Patrick Riley. No, it's not a Karen. Oh, I guess he just doesn't like short kings. Okay. Now, it is not clear why he was in North Carolina that day. Irrelevant, I guess. Thomas said that the Trump banner actually belongs to his 87-year-old mother, who was pretty upset about the ordeal. Well, yeah, her son got shot at over a Trump flag, and he said he plans to replace the stolen banner soon. Thomas said, we are not the kind of people that are going to be intimidated. We're going to have our signs up if we want them. Campbell was then arrested in Cobb County, Georgia, and is charged with felonious assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill or to inflict serious injury. Good. Discharging a firearm to incite fear and willful wanton injury to personal property. He was then extradited to Swain County on October 7th before he was released on a $70,000 bond. Are you freaking kidding me? The guy tried to commit murder over a freaking Trump sign, and his bond is $70,000, and you let him out? What in the actual hell is going on in Swain County? This is why this crap keeps happening. You keep letting these a-holes out or giving them really weak sentences. It's the same thing with the people that commit crimes while trying to stop ICE from doing their job. These people need to spend decades behind bars, after being convicted, of course. But what? Are you kidding me? $70,000 bond. Okay. So there's another little TDS for you, for your viewing satisfaction. What in the hell is this? Steven makes me sick. Yeah, it makes me sick too. Like, what in the actual F is going on here? This guy's a menace. He's driving around like a freaking lunatic, shooting up somebody's house because of a Trump flag. And you let him out? For $70,000 bond? What crack are these deputies smoking? What crack is whatever court system is going on in Swain County? How do you let this a-hole out? Jeez. Man, I don't even know what to tell you about this. Diane says toddler tantrums toddler tantrums and bet the judge returned the weapons to the man baby. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Newer Ham says ICE, so many videos. Google ICE driving drunk with kids. Man, it's maddening to watch this happen over and over and over again. And we all have to endure the lunacy here as if, well, it's just par for the course. And then, of course, you've got these corrupt judges doing their thing, attempting to stop the Trump administration from enforcing the rule of law. And these federal judges keep getting away with it. Just unbelievable stuff. I mean, honestly, I can't even explain it to you how ridiculous that is. Now, this takes me to another story I kind of want to touch on here. Now we're shifting to the realm of, this is the beauty of doing it live, where I've only kind of perused this article, but it was so juicy I had to talk about it today. you have there have been corrupt states like California who have been giving commercial driver's licenses, not just driver's license, because you better damn well believe that regular illegal aliens are getting driver's licenses, but commercial driver's licenses to illegal freaking aliens. There was the infamous illegal alien who killed some people in Florida. See if you guys remember this. This guy, this piece of crap here, decided to do a U-turn on the freeway and just obliterates a family. He got his commercial driver's license, I believe from California, this particular one. These states, in their quest to keep aliens from being deported, are making sure that they can blend into society as if they are citizens, which is the whole point. All of these states should be in huge trouble for doing this, by the way. The state legislatures, everybody involved, they need to be paying a severe price for trying to hide illegal aliens in their state. I think it's treason. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I'm just some guy on the internet talking to you guys and hanging out, right? But I think it should be treason for giving these people driver's licenses, for trying to hide them, when you know that they are illegal freaking aliens in the country. But no, again, this goes back to that weird, we're just going to tolerate this crap. This kind of stuff just needs to stop. But again, I'm just some guy on the internet. What do I know? Well, Florida, my friends, got tired of this garbage. So Florida is now suing sanctuary states over trucker policies after illegal immigrant kills 3. So they're saying, F you to California, we're going to sue you. Florida is arguing that this defiance by these weird states like California and New York and Chicago, or Illinois rather, has turned American highways into a lawless frontier of unqualified drivers, which, of course, it has. The state of Florida has filed a landmark Supreme Court lawsuit accusing Washington and California of endangering lives nationwide by illegally granting commercial driver's licenses to unqualified illegal immigrants. It doesn't even matter if they're qualified. These people do not belong in the country. You're giving commercial driver's licenses to criminals who break our laws. Every day that they remain here, they are committing a crime. And this just so happens to be a direct violation of federal law. But wow, it's like laws don't mean anything anymore. But this is what happens a long time ago when the left started championing illegal immigration. This was in the 90s because they had learned a valuable lesson from Amnesty 1986. They could import millions of new voters because most people that come here illegally do so because they're lower socioeconomic class. People who make less money tend to need government assistance, and people that get government assistance tend to vote for the party that gives them the most stuff. And the party of Santa Claus is the Democrat Party. So they began to push to not enforce the border, to not deport people back in the mid to late 90s. When this began, there was concerns by people who had their heads screwed on straight that once you stop enforcing one law and make it optional, in the case of the illegal aliens, then you are by definition encouraging people to then disregard other laws. And as new generations roll in, popping out and turning 18, they too are going to think the same thing, except it's going to expand. This is why it seems like crime is out in the open and nobody cares anymore, because you've had 25 plus years, almost 30 years of people on the left who have been advocating for disregarding law when it's inconvenient, when it doesn't matter or goes against your ideology. And so this is how we got to this point where wanton disregard for federal law. Because places like California and New York, they also break federal law every day. Like, look at pot. Now, I personally don't give a crap about pot. I don't care if you smoke it. I don't care. But it is illegal on a federal level. But the states simply make it available. And I understand the cultural zeitgeist is shifting towards the acceptance of weed. We're becoming a weed culture. Fine. I don't care. But the point is, you're still breaking federal law. But it's been ignored. Right? Now you could argue for the merits, or for the value of allowing weed to be smoked by people. Whatever, right? But still, you're allowing people to simply break the law. If you don't like it, change it at the federal level. This is how you end up. It's 7 degrees down, but this is how you end up with CDLs going to illegal aliens and nobody batting an eye. Now, the move comes in the wake of a devastating Florida highway crash in August that killed 3 people, allegedly caused by Harjinder Singh. Allegedly, you stupid SOBs. Okay. An illegal alien truck driver who failed a post-crash English proficiency exam but still was licensed by Washington, a self-declared sanctuary state. The 73-page bill of complaint alleges that both Washington and California have openly defied federal safety and immigration standards by issuing CDLs to individuals who are not lawfully present in the U.S. and often cannot speak or read English. Florida argues this defiance has turned American highways into a lawless frontier of unqualified drivers. Don't worry about it, Newer. There's always next time. Now, the tragedy that prompted the lawsuit occurred when Singh attempted a U-turn across a Florida highway, blocking multiple lanes and causing a deadly collision with a minivan. 3 passengers were then killed. After the crash, federal investigators found that Singh could only identify 1 of 4 road signs and correctly answered just 2 of 12 questions in an English language proficiency test, despite holding a Washington-issued full-term CDL. Now, according to the Florida filing, Singh failed 13 previous driving exams before Washington's Department of Licensing issued him the CDL back in July of 2023. And California later issued him a non-domiciled CDL in 2024, even though he was not legally eligible for one under federal law, because who the hell cares about the law? We're California. We're Washington. We're New York. We're just going to do whatever the hell we want. The result was 3 fatalities, the complaint states. And believe you me, there's a lot more like this we're just not hearing about. Because in California, it's so bad. There are so many non-citizens driving illegally, many without licenses, many without insurance, that cops will not come out to car accidents anymore unless someone is seriously injured. You cannot get police to come out to do a police report anymore because they want to protect illegal aliens. So citizens' rights, citizens' lives do not matter when you have these radical lunatics in charge. Now, Newer, just because you don't care about people's lives doesn't mean that other people don't. You can be a douchebag. None of us really care. But have at it. Just remember, you can be a retard online. We will allow you to do so. Now, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has also taken steps to pressure California to comply with English language requirements for truckers. He announced last week that the Trump administration would be pulling $40 million in federal funding to California over the state not abiding by existing laws for commercial truck drivers and English proficiency. And, I mean, I guess that's a start. But again, you're giving driver's licenses to non-citizens. Surely there's more that you can do than just take away some funding. That seems not nearly enough. This, I guess, was them talking about this.
Who can make the justification that somebody should be driving a truck that doesn't speak English, can't communicate with law enforcement, can't read signs, and put people in danger? Who can justify that?
And also being a criminal alien.
Well, I don't know. Gavin Newsom seems to think that he can. But again, it is these big 18-wheelers that we see on our roadways. But these are drivers who can drive your school bus as well. Take your kids to school.
Right.
That don't speak the language.
Right.
And
so when the federal government started clamping down on this, 6,000 drivers were removed for not being proficient in English, which is a basic need, a basic must-have if you're a commercial frickin' driver driving on our roads. Holy shit.
Again, when they can't understand signs, we saw the infamous crash down in Florida where a truck driver was doing a U-turn on a four-lane highway. That's insanity. But these are the kind of risks that some of these drivers take when they don't understand the rules, they don't understand our culture, but they also don't understand, if a crash happens, how to communicate with law enforcement. And so we're going to take all the actions we can in this administration to keep people safe. Again, Gavin Newsom may not care about safety, but I'm going to do all I can to make sure that I prevent the next cataclysmic accident that takes someone's life. And if that's taking money away from Gavin Newsom, that's exactly what we're going to do.
Well, and you need, it needs to be more than that, though. The state laws that are giving these people driver's licenses in the first place need to be cast out, and people need to be held accountable for it. Those at the DMV, for example, I would hold them liable too. How dare you give a non-citizen a driver's license to begin with? You're giving illegal aliens access to our roads unimpeded. Again, this goes back to just simply ignoring the rule of law. The left has codified this as part of the zeitgeist of our culture. It's just, the whole thing is ridiculous. It's so stupid that we even arrived at this point. But this is decades in the making. This is the radical left attempting to do everything that they can to ensure that these people cannot be kicked out. Because sooner or later, they will get their amnesty if they ever get their hands back on power. And if they do, and if you still have 25 to 30 million people in the country, possibly more, certainly not less, you have one-party rule. So, yeah. So let's, we'll have to see what happens here, but there needs to be a price to pay for doing this. I don't understand how we let our legislatures get away with this. I mean, how did we reach this point? I mean, I asked that. It's kind of rhetorical, of course. We all saw it happen slowly but surely. The left has done everything they could to keep them here. And when the tide turned and the public said, we don't want this anymore, then they used the courts to block deportations by overwhelming a small judicial system to keep them here. You got 3 million people in the queue waiting to see judges for deportations. You've got states, when they realized that the people were demanding something be done, deportations happen, spent years preparing for this, finding ways to hide these people within their country so that they could wait out potential Donald Trump type personalities. So here we are. Oklahoma busted 200 CDLs or so, Arthur says. Yeah, I saw something about that the other day. Yeah, and how does the state do that? People need to be prosecuted. I think you need to start with the drones that are actually giving these out that put that on there, no name given. And then you need to go after whoever, put the squeeze on those people to give up whoever ordered that. People need to go to jail for this. For years and years. Have them give up huge chunks of their lives for thumbing their noses at the rule of law and for hurting this country as a whole. Sam says, until the federal judges, actually many normal judges as well, are in prison, it will not change. Yeah. Well, and that's part of our problem, is that these judges are allowed to do treasonous behaviors in the name of, I'm just a judge, I'm just ruling on what I believe the law is. But there has to be limits. There does. You can't have this kind of stuff. You can't have a country and continue like this. Sooner or later, it's going to break. Right now, you have sane people trying to quell criminal behavior, but it's only a matter of time before the political winds shift once more and you end up with these radical lunatics in power. And then what happens? I think it's going to be a bad time for everybody, for sure. So that's happening in Florida. And when you mix that with all the TDS weird stuff, But yeah, so I think what we're gonna do. I have a couple other topics we could get into, but I think now is probably a good time to bring this to a grinding halt. It's been great as always, and I'm gonna keep trying to do these Monday through Friday, somewhere in between 5 and 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for now. I'll get a defined time frame probably in a couple of weeks once I can get my own schedule kind of hammered out. But I enjoy doing these a lot. We get to interact with each other, and we get to occasionally see weirdos in the chat. Yeah, it's been fun doing this. I'm still going to do regular style shows that I used to do, but I'm going to have to pepper them in. It's going to be a little bit wonky right now. I'm all over the place on what kind of content we'll be able to put up as we go along, but I guarantee you we'll get more variations as we go forward. And then Topical Umbrella, I'll be putting some content up, should have some stuff up by tomorrow, and I'm going to do more on this channel as well. There's going to be more sarcasm, more humor here, and we'll also cover I know this might not be for all the stick to the issues crowd here, but we'll get to do more fun stories from time to time, or there'll be a little, off the beaten path, so to speak. And I'm probably going to talk about banning burqas. It's one of the stories I was doing earlier today, where you had Portugal is basically going to move to ban the burqa, and they're like, if you don't like it, get the hell out. So there'll be different topic types, but this is my alt channel. This is my own personal project, and I'll be spending a lot more time here in the coming months as we kind of ramp this one up. And again, just so we can have a deviation in types of content and have a little bit more fun here and a little bit more off the wall stuff. And then, of course, to be frank, I try to keep it more along the lines of big news stories to kind of just, put my thumb on the scale of what's happening out there and what I think you guys want to hear. So in the meantime, guys, it's been fun as always. Thank you for joining me today. Debater Man, I see Sam in the chat. Wolf, as always, for doing an excellent job as mod. And by the way, he had a recent birthday, so make sure that you let him know that he deserves late birthday wishes. And I think we'll do this again tomorrow. And yeah, I guess we're going to leave it there. So thanks for joining me, guys. I will see you in the next stream.